Smoke fills the air, the wrestlers roar. It's smoke beyond the mat, where legends go to war. From the ring to the mic, the stories unfold of triumphs and tears, tales yet untold. Smoke beyond the mat, where legends are born, where the passion burns bright and the spirit is torn. From the heart of the ring to the soul of the show, smoke beyond the mat, where the wrestlers go. Take the stage with wit and charm. They guide us through the chaos, keeping us warm. From old school icons to rising stars, they share their journeys, leaving lasting scars. Smoke beyond the mat, where legends are born, where the passion burns bright and the spirit is torn. From the heart of the the soul of the show, smoke beyond the mat, where the wrestlers go.
Smoke
Very
beyond
nice.
the mat, eh, Grump?
Yeah, very nice, man. That's a good promo you put together, bro.
I know, a new kind of show for you and me, and of course, Mr. Vitola and Proof Matthew, and he's available. And of course, me and Matthew are going to be doing more of a wrestling recap on Raw, and of course, Nexus and SmackDown. And then me and you, Grump, we're going to be more exploring legends of wrestling from like the old days of Georgia Championship Wrestling, then WCW, AWA, and then maybe a little bit of WWF when, of course, the wrestlers changed over to there.
Southeastern Championship.
Yeah.
Wrestling.
There's a load.
That was from the 70s, also.
Oh yeah, you think about it, and just them names there with what you've mentioned, and of course, AWA, and then mentioning, of course, the likes of Georgia Championship Wrestling, then Texas Championship Wrestling, the different regions of the states. And for anyone who doesn't know, of course, it used to be territories. So, of course, you'd have your certain little territories where it would be of wrestling. Yeah. And then, of course, we know coming out of Stamford, Connecticut was WWF, of course, which then went into WWF, which is World Wrestling Federation, before they had to change and become, of course, WWE, which was World Wrestling Entertainment. But just look at the power move that Vince McMahon did then, where he took them territories, he took them wrestlers, which are already becoming stars, Grump. And then, of course, they became legends. And this is the thing why we're talking about legends tonight. And what a list of legends you could go through and superstars when you think of the superstars that were in the mix, of course. I know we've spoken, and I just want you to just give a little bit of a side story about when you were growing up and who you were in the gym training with, because that's a great little story for opening up of a couple of legends there, my brother, you were training in the gym with.
Well, I was born and raised in Knoxville, Tennessee. Of course, that was kind of a central location for Southeast Championship Wrestling. You know, most all of them, they came through there at one time or another. And of course, I played baseball on the high school baseball team, and we had memberships over at the local gym fitness center there, in a place called Western by Western Plaza, and we would go over there 2 or 3 days a week after school. You know, work out a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
It was a regular to see you would see on the regular, Tora Tanaka was in there very frequently.
Yeah.
Mr. Fuji, he was in there quite frequently. Kevin Sullivan.
Jeez, Kevin Sullivan. Oh,
Yeah. And one time I only ran into him once in there though, but and I don't think he was even in there working out, but I ran into Ronnie Garvin.
Ronnie Garvin. Jeez, now you're talking.
At the gym one day while we were over there. He was in there. He wasn't working out, but he was in there. And but to us, we didn't really look at them as the guys that they turned in to be in that business. I mean, they were friends to us, man. I mean, would talk to us, treat us just as well as anybody, help us with tips working out and things of that nature. I mean, they were great guys, and you didn't really have that starstruck thing with them guys, even though they were some of the baddest of the bad at the time with it going, and that kind of gave you an inside look behind too. So, because you see guys in there working out together, but they're beating each other's brains out Friday night at Highway Park,
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, it was it was cool. It was cool the last couple of years of my high school, being able to run into some of those guys, and talk to them just like you and I sitting there having a conversation. Not even talking shop, not even talking business of any kind, just shooting the breeze, man, about different things like in life. Stuff like that, conversation.
But you just look at it though. Just look at that though, Grump, with Tanaka, Mr. Fuji, for them become tag team champions, and for what Tanaka did then after. Of course, Tanaka then went working in films. One of his biggest roles, of course, was in The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He then went on to, of course, make the Three Ninjas films and starred in some of them. And Professor became a professor. His name was Professor. And then you look at Mr. Fuji's, of how Mr. Fuji went in, some of the names he managed. Yokozuna became WWF champion. You look at the Barbarian, the Warlord, just a couple of names that, and even Action Smash Demolition, when he had them as a tag team and then brought in the likes of Crush. That guy went through the ringer of being a wrestler and it's like stories that have been told on different podcasts. Fuji was a practical joker. He loved pulling different jokes on people, give him the odd jibs and stuff. But he was a really nice guy to sit down and talk to, like you've just said there. Because you could sit and talk.
Yeah.
And then to mention Kevin Sullivan. Holy shit, what a guy he was. When you think of how he was, to then bring in that kind of dark arts mysteria around him, where he's painting his face a little bit like Alice Cooper, putting the cross on his head and having all the people around him, and like Nancy Benoit
or something like that.
Nancy Benoit
or something. So
but you just got to look at who he had, and geez, when you think he had the likes of Luna Vachon, the Vachon family. What they came from, Mad Dog Vachon. Jeez, he was a wrestler and off when you think about it.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. Even Ronnie Garvin. When I got to know about Ronnie Garvin, when he was in WWF, and he was at the Survivor Series event, and he teamed up in, of course, the Survivor Series. Right. That's really all I knew. But from other podcasts that I've watched, and from like Jake the Snake Roberts talking about him, he was a legit strong guy. He wouldn't care about fighting. He'd tackle you down to the ground.
He wasn't the biggest guy in the ring, but he wasn't the biggest guy in the ring, but he'd fight a buzzsaw. He didn't care, you know.
But
And there was,
what did you
huh?
think though of the merger of the territories being taken? Because I know there's a little bit of age difference between you and me. But what did you think when you started seeing all the different territories of wrestling start disappearing? When, of course, Vince McMahon decided he wanted to take over the world and take all of wrestling. What did you reckon of that? Do you reckon it
Well,
crippled wrestling because it crippled it on TV, or do you reckon it was a good thing to happen? What What do you think on that one?
well, the way I see it, uh, like you said, it used to be the different territories across the country. From the Pacific Northwest to the Atlantic Northeast. Southern Cal to Southern Florida. The little wrestling community territories all across
Yep.
there. Well, and I'm not a big McMahon fanboy, but I
Yeah.
believe in giving credit where credit is due, especially when you are a very intelligent and wise, forward thinking businessman.
Oh yeah.
Now, see, me coming out of the trucking industry, the way I would compare this is there's 2,000 different small trucking companies all across the country.
Yeah.
And I've got this idea that I'm going to hook them all together and
Yep.
I'm going to make one corporation out of all of those little territories.
Yeah.
Okay. Not only does that give you push and power and some clout, but then it allows people like me who grew up East Tennessee. All I had, Georgia Championship Wrestling, Southeast Championship Wrestling. Once in a while, you got to see some of the Atlantic Coast, you know, but that's about it. And if you had a
Yep.
special wrestler come through, you got to see somebody different other than who was traveling that East Coast circuit, you know. Well, once McMahon did this and he hooked everything up and
Yeah.
started mixing and mingling, well, you got to see wrestlers from other parts of the country that they may have went through their whole career and you would have never heard their name
Yeah.
if
That's
that
the thing,
hadn't
isn't
happened.
it?
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a genius. It was a genius business move on McMahon's part, and I'm not a McMahon fanboy by no
No.
measure, but it
You
was.
know
But
something.
I'll give him
Yeah.
kudos on that.
I'll give him kudos on that because
Yeah, yeah,
his father, of course, Vince McMahon Senior, was very
yeah,
against Vince McMahon Jr. doing it, and he said to him, "You're going to piss off a lot of people," and he was pissing off a lot of people. He pissed off Vern Gagne, of course,
yeah,
of AWA. He was pissing off all the different territories to the point they were putting hits out on him. If you see him, I want him fucking shot. I don't want him, and blah blah. And it's like, geez, this was old school
yeah,
Western kind of vibes. You come in our territory, guess what? We're going to put a cap in your ass.
yeah.
And it's crazy when you think that was how that was in wrestling all them years ago. And I think it did bring a lot of different things for a lot of people around because the biggest thing what he went for was television rights. And of course, Georgia Championship was on TV. You got
Right.
all the different ones that were on TV, and he wanted that power to basically have one product, which would be
Yep.
eventually that mega power of WWF. And then, of course, it changed over. Now, of course, we've been talking about Georgia Championship a little bit, but who stuck out for you from there as one of them kind of wrestlers that you thought, oh God, he's scary? I think if it was me, it'd be the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal. When they came out, and I've seen some of their earlier matches, they were two big dudes, and even later on in their career, they were still big, massive dudes. And then having the likes of Paul Ellering is their manager. Yeah, I think they just went straight up, and they went on a different
Yeah.
level then. as tag team champions and different things that they did.
Yeah. That, well, see, I would say in the more in some of the not the modern day-to-day type, but between what we're discussing here, I would say the Road Warriors, were probably some of the scariest dudes you'd want to get in the ring with.
Oh yeah,
But then you got to remember we went through the Sullivan Dark Ages over here before the Road Warriors
yep.
showed up. So we kind of had a taste of what the satanic side of things were. But these guys were just big and vicious,
Oh yeah,
They just looked like
dude.
carnivores. They wanted to eat somebody, just rip
Yeah,
them
they wanted
apart.
to eat you and chew you up. That's what they
Yeah.
wanted to do. And
Which brings me to
yep.
another observation between legends and modern day.
Mm-hmm.
The physiques, the
Oh yeah.
physical attributes that these guys today have. See, back from the wrestlers that I talk about, there was, I remember seeing, two guys that were built anything like a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
You know,
I know.
that was Superstar Billy Graham
Yep. Oh yeah. Straight up.
and in Georgia Championship Wrestling when Tony Atlas got there.
Oh, Big Town Atlas. Yeah.
Talking about them soup bones.
Yeah, but you
Yeah, and
think
that's the
about
first two I remember. There may be
you
another
think about that though. You've
but
got two there. Even Jesse Ventura. Just look at Jesse Ventura, another one. Big guns
Ventura
on
was
show.
always big.
And this was the thing. You look at the physique then to the physique now. You've got, of course, overweight wrestlers. You've got, of course,
Yeah.
women wrestlers that have got a little bit of weight to them. And we're not being weightist or anything.
Oh no.
But when you look at that day and age, a lot of the guys that were wrestling, they were bodybuilders, proper bodybuilders. Then, of course, we know where he went. There's the steroids and then the steroid
Yeah.
trials that went on later down the line. And we got to know about who was taking them. But when you look at the big men, they were normal bodybuilders or big 6 foot guys that only got
Yeah.
some muscle to them. And I think a lot's changed when you look at the physique of now, of this modern day wrestling. You've got a lot more smaller wrestlers because, of course, you've got the Latino wrestlers, the luchadors. You
Yeah.
didn't really see many luchadors in that time of era of when you were watching Wrestling Rump
No.
in them places because it was mainly down in Mexico as they stayed. They didn't come to the
Right.
US soil and wrestle.
If they
And
did, it was the Southwest. If they
yeah,
came US, they usually stayed Southwest.
yeah.
Southern
It's
Cal,
just
Arizona, New
yeah.
Mexico.
But then look at Abdullah the Butcher. He wasn't no fucking bodybuilder. That guy was just pure beast.
Mabel.
He was. Yeah, Mabel, of course.
Mabel's
He was
just
in
huge.
yeah. But then you got to think of Andre the Giant as well. Another
Yeah.
great big legend. He was no bodybuilder, but when you look at pictures of him in his younger days, he got a good physique, 6 pack, and all the rest. And then, of course, he came
Yeah.
in, and he was just a giant anyway because of that disease. He had the giantism disease, and just
Right.
kept growing in his hands. But I've never seen someone that tall drop kick somebody, and he could drop kick people.
Yeah.
How could you drop kick somebody at
Yeah.
7 foot and over 380 pounds and more, and he could just get up and go dink and drop kick somebody? That's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I don't mean to get away from the legends thing, but when you're talking about ring acrobatics and big guys,
Yeah.
you know, look at the first time you saw Undertaker or Kane walk the top rope.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, who would thought you see that?
Brother, I was still gobsmacked when I saw that. The very first
Man,
time I saw The Undertaker walk that top rope and drop the clothesline on top of him. You wouldn't have thought that could happen. There's a guy over 6 foot and over 300 pounds could easily
mountain of
maneuver
a man.
walking over that rope. And he did it. Some of the even seen
Yeah,
him jumping over the top ropes and doing the suicide dives. Seen a
yeah,
guy do that. It's like Kane. Kane getting up and jumping and doing a diving clothesline. How the hell could he do that? And there's so many, but then what did you here's one for you. What did you reckon of Paul White, the Big Show, when he came in? Because they were saying it's Andre the Giant's son. And
yeah, yeah.
they
They
dressed
were
him up
trying to
in the
say they were
leotard the
related.
same. Yeah, they dressed him up in the leotard the same. Do you reckon there's if Andre had been around the same time as the Giant, that would have been a moneymaker match, or do you reckon it would have been down the toilet and they couldn't have done nothing with two big people like that? What do you reckon?
What, Giant and Big Show?
Mm.
Mm,
Giant and Big Show wrestling match.
man, if I mean that would just be monumental. Seeing two guys that size. I mean, literally
Yeah.
in a heat of battle with each other.
Well, you think there was only ever one
Yeah,
wrestling match that was two big men, and that was Andre and Big John Studd. And Andre couldn't stand Big John Studd because Big John
no,
Studd showed Andre the most disrespect, and everybody knew Andre would go to that top rope, he'd press on it, and climb over it. Well, Big John Studd started doing it, which pissed Andre off. And Andre was like, "No, you're not doing this. You listen to me. I boss. You listen." Yeah, they didn't listen, and look what happened to Big John Studd. Yeah, he got his arse handed to him. He
yep,
did.
yep,
But you've got to look at Andre, and of course, I know we're talking about legends, but Andre being the biggest one, and the biggest
yeah,
name out of them, Andre was also very knowledgeable in the ring of what he could and couldn't do. And if he had a problem, you had a problem. And he couldn't stand Randy Savage, another, of course, legend. Randy Savage had a big thing for putting baby oil on. Of course, so slippery, Andre didn't like it. So Andre used to step on his hair, pull him up. He did the same on Jake the Snake.
yeah,
And he would literally beat the living shit out of him. To the point he had one wrestling match with Jake the Snake Roberts. And of course, he used to do the rope and he dived down and set their arse on him. Well, of course, Andre did it to Jake. And as he was sitting on Jake, he went, he farted on Jake the Snake.
mm.
And he was in hysterics laughing. And Jake's just sat there thinking his ribs have been broken and all the rest. And Andre sat on his chest going, I just farted. What a stunner that would have been. A giant fart and he's laughing, sitting on Jake the Snake Roberts in the ring.
Oh man,
Jeez. But there's so many. There's so many. And this is the thing. You look at,
yeah,
when we've been talking, the Freebirds. What a fantastic team that is. And
yeah,
you look at the likes now of the Freebirds who is alive. Of course, you got Michael PSA's still alive. Terry, of course, sadly died, as we know, and some of that was down to drug addiction, heart problems, and different things.
yeah.
And of course, you got Ronnie Garvin, not Ronnie Garvin, sorry. Was it Ronnie Garvin? No. Who was the rest of the Freebirds? You had Terry, Michael PSA's, and who was the other one? Who was with him, Grump? I'm sure it might have been Ronnie Garvin.
No, Garvin wasn't one of the
No.
Freebirds.
I can't remember who the
Uh,
Freebirds were.
it was Michael Hayes, Terry,
Yeah.
and dang it, I can't think of it now.
Well, sure it, I'm sure it'll come back to us because you know something.
It might pop in.
Of course. Well, we are just starting, of course, the
Oh
show, and
yeah, this is
we'll,
our first
we'll
edition to
get there.
everything. We'll
Yeah,
get there.
first edition. But
I mean, there's
you know,
enough legends to talk about that you can't do it
oh
in
yeah,
one episode. You can just
Jimmy
skim through it.
Garvin. I knew why
Jimmy
what
Garvin, that's
I
right. It
got.
was a Garvin.
Yeah,
It was. You're right. It was a Garvin. It was Jimmy,
yeah.
not
So
Ronnie.
so really, if you listen to the group, you
Exactly.
had Buddy Rogers, not sorry, Bobby Roberts, Terry Gordy, of course, who we've already mentioned in that past, Jimmy Garvin, and King Parsons. And the Freebirds started. Jeez, I didn't know they started then. This is great. This is crazy. I think. So the Freebirds started performing together in 1979 when they were in, of course, Mid South Wrestling with promoter
Yeah,
Bill Watson. Jeez, what stories we can tell about that prick. Jeez,
yeah.
what
Mid
old
South was
cowboy Bill
another
Watts.
one we
But
had down here.
yeah, and then of course
Yeah,
the group was Michael PSAs, Terry Bam Bam Gordy. They were originally meant to be a tag team. He soon added former
right.
blonde Buddy Jack Roberts into the mix, and they became a three-man gang type of tag team. And then, of course, they invented the concept now called the Freebird Rule, and they're on it, which any two or three members could defend the championship belts. This usually worked as heels, of course, but also for several faces runs as well. And then, after wrestling for Watts Mid South, they worked in Memphis, based Continental Wrestling Association, so the CWA, where they
Yeah,
feuded with Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, Jerry Lawler, Christ, what another name.
yeah. That's another one
And
right
then,
there now.
yeah, and then you look, of course, 1980s, the Freebirds then moved to Georgia Championship Wrestling,
Yeah,
where they won the national tag team titles from Mr. Wrestler 1 and 2. Throughout the first half of 1981, the Birds had some of the most famous feuds with legendary matches in the history of GCW. In one famous match shown on WTBS, known as the Piledriver match, Terry Gordy gave Ted DiBiase 4 consecutive piledrivers, which led to DiBiase being taken away in an ambulance. Then, of course, it says there's Terry Gordy and Michael Hayes had a fallout and then feuded against each other. Whereas Hayes is the hero, Gordy is the villain. And then eventually they patched up the differences, reformed the Freebirds as a duo, feuded with Ollie Anderson and Stan Henson.
yeah.
Stan Henson, another legit
That's another one.
badass.
Yeah, Stan Hansen,
Yeah.
buddy.
And then, of course, we know where they went then. The group wrestled, of course, for Dallas, which
Yeah,
was WCCW, World Class Championship Wrestling territory, and they had a feud with the Von Erichs, which, of course, was David, Kevin, Kerry, Chris, and Mike, which we will be talking about the Von Erichs because what a
oh
sad,
yeah,
tragic thing for that family. It's crazy. And the feud was ignited by an infamous incident when Terry Gordy slammed Kevin Von Erich's head into a steel cage door, inciting a riot. A riot of all things. Jesus Christ.
yeah.
Then, of course, they performed at the NWA, then back in Georgia Championship Wrestling, American Wrestling Association, which of course was AEW, Oklahoma-based Universal Wrestling Federation. When the AWA, they feuded with the Road Warriors, which of course we mentioned, costing them the World Tag Team titles,
Right.
which of course the Road Warriors had, in a match against longtime Freebird Ali, Jimmy Garvin, and Stephen Regal. Now, of course, Stephen Regal, we will go into him because Stephen Regal from England, of
It's one of
course.
your boys.
Yeah, one of our boys. And
Yep.
it's crazy when you look just that list there of how they started and some of the federations to be who they were and who they had.
Yeah.
What a team. And then you look at Michael P.S. Hayes now for where he is behind the scenes in WWE. He's doing the matches, he's writing up matches, and he's come a long way. And I tell you one thing, when you can work under somebody with that knowledge of the business and they can help you to grow and how to cut a promo and
Yeah.
different things, it's just crazy. But
Yeah.
I know we mentioned, of course, the Von Erichs. And what did you reckon of the Von Erich boys, Grump, when you saw them? What did you think when you saw that family of boys and how they came? And of course, having the claw as the finisher. What did you reckon of them when you very first saw them?
Um. Well, I mean, when they first come on, I mean, they made a pretty good splash. I mean, they got some attention.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure they got all the traction they wanted to get as quick as they wanted to get it, but then again, over the years, they've also, like you said, they've been through some things
Yeah.
over the years, that you really don't wish on anybody, but
No.
you do your best and try to keep things in perspective and keep going. But
Yeah.
they've been a big name, they've been a big name in it for a whole lot of years. So,
They're still quite a big name now when you think
well, yeah, you still
there's
hear,
only one that's still alive, but his sons are now wrestling, of course. And
yeah,
it's a tragic story of the Von Erichs because suicide and different things and
yeah,
drugs are involved and all the ways around it. And of course, Kerry Von Erich. I knew Kerry when he came into WWF as the Texas Tornado. And he was bad then with his leg and different things. And of course, with how he wrestled there. But he became Intercontinental Champion. And you look at the likes of him, and I also believe he had a match against Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, where he won the title as well. And I think, I don't know, I think if there was better things around that time, we might not have seen so many of the Von Erich boys gone. And it's a shame that was the story of the Von Erichs and of how they went. It's just crazy when you think of it.
yeah. But let me ask you this: what's your opinion? Um,
Uh-huh.
since we are talking about legends and all that, but
Yep.
it dovetails into the modern. But what is your opinion on the difference in the vices that these wrestlers today turn to, as
Mm,
opposed to the wrestlers from the 70s? Because I don't think the drug scene was near what it is today.
I don't think
Uh,
it is what it
I,
was.
I'm thinking the big thing back
Yeah.
then was probably alcohol and probably your pain medications were
It's
probably your two biggest things back then. But
yeah.
today, you look at everything. You've got the alcohol. You've got the drugs of 9,000 kinds. You've got
Yep.
steroids. You've got stem cell
Yep.
whatever.
Stem cell research.
You've got you know you got all kinds of
It,
things going on today.
it's crazy because you look at that time from 60s, 70s to 80s. It is documented on other podcasts. It's documented on different wrestling channels. There's the guys would like to smoke a bit of pot, and they'd have the pot. They'd
Yeah,
enjoy the alcohol, and that was after the matches, of course. They had the uppers, they had the downers because of being up there to try and relax and different things. Then, of course, they got into different drugs being cocaine and stuff like that as they got into. And that's the way they went down that wrestling route. We know, of course, getting into the 80s and some of the 90s, the steroid trials and the steroid
Yeah.
abuse that they were on. And you were seeing natural bodybuilder guys turn into absolute freaks, and they got veins popping out the neck, veins popping out from everywhere. And they looked like a
Yeah.
cartoon character out of a comic of how they were. And of course, the biggest hypocrite of all that was Hulk Hogan. Say your prayers, eat your
Mhm.
vitamins. Yeah, he's there and he's taking steroids to be as big as he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the 24-inch pythons. Yeah. What an absolute hypocrite that was. And
Yeah. Well, see,
it's crazy because now they've got the wellness policy involved. And that wellness policy, any ex WWE wrestler can go to there, and if they've got a problem with alcohol or drugs, they'll send them to rehab. And the amount of people that have been to rehab and got back better in wrestling is a great achievement. I think if it had been around a lot longer ago, we might still have some of the wrestlers that we tragically lost in the youth, because we did lose a lot of wrestlers. We lost a lot of could have been legends, as we say. And
right.
I think it's a hard thing when you look at what they were into and where they were, and one of the most tragic stories, and then became a success story. And he's a favourite wrestler of mine, Grump, I've got to admit. Jake the Snake Roberts. I actually love this stuff. When he walked down the ring with Damien and the different snakes, Lucifer, of course, was one of his snakes. Then Revelations was his albino snake that he had later on in his career before he retired from WWE.
Yeah.
But he's been adamant and he's talked about it. He was into cocaine. He got into the really hard drugs, the alcohol, the amount of times he wanted to die and different things. And then luckily, DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, found him. And that success story to now, he's sober. He's got his marriage back to Cheryl, his wife. He's back in touch with his kids and his grandkids. He's now, of course, a Hall of Famer. He's still working in wrestling for AEW, and he's a manager there. And just look at that success story. You can't really say there's that many wrestlers that have been where he is, and they've got a success story and they're still around.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I know he's, of course, got COPD and different health problems, and he's just had a cancer scare and everything again.
Well,
But he's still here. He's still here and he's still relevant at the moment.
there's also another big difference that I notice with the wrestling industry of today, as opposed to the 70s when I grew up.
Yeah.
Back then, those guys, they weren't concerned with bodybuilding. They weren't concerned with bulking up and all of that. They were concerned with getting in there, putting on a good show for everybody, making a little extra money and enjoying their notoriety, in their territory, so to speak,
Yeah.
and most of these guys, just like with Southeastern Championship, the big one in Knoxville, one of the biggest draws in that wrestling was a tag team called the Wright Brothers, Ron and Don Wright. They were from Kingsport, 90 miles up the road there. That's where they was from. Well, I don't know what Don did for a living, but I know Ron owned a liquor store because I used to deliver to it. So I know Ron owned a liquor store, and rumor had it that go ahead and pause and do what you got to do. I've been lost track. I looked down at the minute.
We will be back in a minute. We're just going to take a quick short break, man, and we will. So. Of course, we're back. We just took a little
Yeah,
break, and you know
we did.
something when you're two old guys, you go to the toilet and go for a wee. So that's why we had a little
That's it.
break.
Sometimes you
We're
need a break. But anyway, what I was saying is the wrestlers, the legends back from my days in my local territory wrestling. The majority of those guys, they had other jobs. They owned businesses and things of that nature.
Oh yeah,
Wrestling was kind of a second nature thing to them, a side income, a entertain the people kind of thing, you know. Uh,
yeah.
and where it's gone to today, it's a business empire. These guys don't
Oh
have
yeah.
other jobs.
No.
No, the wrestling is their job. See, that's a major, you know, that puts a major different light on things when this becomes your income and this becomes your source of support, you know, instead of it being your secondary, your side hobby or your fun thing to do or whatever.
Yeah.
It puts a little different, you know,
But you've
eyeball
only got to
on it.
look. Yeah, but you've only got to look at it there, Grump. When you just mentioned now, it's basically a mega empire. They don't have
Yeah,
to work a second job.
right.
You've only got to look at the money that some of the wrestlers would make. $30 for a night, but they've just travelled 100 miles in the car, slept in the car that night to do a wrestling show the next day, and get paid $30. Now they're
Yeah,
on $1 million contracts.
yeah,
And where wrestlers have gone from now, most wrestlers own real estate or they're into different deals. Look at The Rock, for instance. Got his tequila, done movies, just brought tons of shares in TKO that own UFC and WWE. And the amount of money they've made, it's just crazy when you think there's wrestlers who are making $30 sleeping in the car, and that's
yeah,
all they have. And then they still got to try to get food, get over to the next wrestling show, and it might be, say, you've got to go from Charlton to New York and wrestle in New York.
yeah,
Well, I haven't got the money to fly, it'd be in the car. And they sit, do that trip, and then the next day, they got to be back in Charlton to wrestle again. So they're going to travel all the way back down to Charlton again. And this was the thing with doing the territories. They could be booked here, there, and everywhere. They could have 4 shows. And as you know, with living in the States, it's not easy to get to many places. It's a lot of traveling on roads. And I know when we've spoken, it's like, well, how far is that to you, Grump? Well, it's like 5.5 hours in a car. Oh, shit. Okay. It's not just down the road then.
right.
And it's the thing with them. It is. But what did you reckon of the English guys coming over the States and starting wrestling, like Steven Regal and Giant A-Stacks and them kind of wrestlers, when you started seeing the English guys coming over and how they wrestled?
Well,
What did you
I
reckon
like
of that?
old Haystack now. You know, I liked old Haystack. I wasn't a big Regal fan.
Yeah.
Uh, he, I mean, don't get me wrong, because they all have their arrogance about them.
Yep.
It's just that his was kind of a different, you know, it was kind of a different channel there. You know, and I really couldn't get a hold of him. But um, the ones that made the ones that made the biggest splash for me were probably the British Bulldogs.
Oh, yeah. Davy Boy. Davy
Yeah,
Boy Smith from Manchester. And, of course, the Dynamite Kid. He's
yeah,
cousin. And to be honest with you, Dynamite Kid never ever wanted Davy Boy to do wrestling. He didn't want it because he was very jealous. He was a very jealous guy. And he goes, you'll never do nothing and blah, blah, blah. And just look at his
hmm,
career, of how his career took off. And Dynamite kind of
yeah,
went down that dark path, was wrestling in Japan, steroids, cocaine, alcohol, what he got into. Then you look at the British Bulldog, steroids, alcohol,
yeah,
finally got off it, then got back on it, then got off it. And sadly, of course, we lost Davey. But
right,
just look at some of their feuds when you got the British Bulldogs. In their corner, you've got Ozzy Osbourne. the Prince of Darkness in their corner. And then through they wrestled. The Hart Foundation.
Yeah.
You got Bret the Hitman Hart, Jim the Anvil 9 Hart, and then Captain Lou Albano in the corner. And then to see that family then become the Hart Foundation, and of course the Big Hart Foundation. So of course you got little baby brother Owen Hart. You've of course got British Bulldog then in there. You got Jim the Nineville Hart. Then they brought Brian Pillman into that group. Of course,
Yeah.
that was in Hollywood Blondes that was wrestling with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then see that.
That's my favorite of all right there now.
Yeah, Stone Cold.
Well, Stone Cold, that's my favorite of all right. That's one of my. I don't know, man. They just something about that dude.
Old Steve Williams, his proper name is Steve Williams, but of course he changed it to Steve Austin. And he was another one. They said, you know what? You're never going to do nothing in wrestling. And then you look at where he went. He went from WCW, went to ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling, where they wouldn't give a shit if they put a baseball bat in your head because they were so extreme. They were bleeding like stuffed pigs every night.
Yeah.
To then go from there, hit WWF under the Taskmaster or the Ringmaster or whatever stupid shit name they give him, and put him with, of course, the likes of the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, and made him, of course, the $1 Million Champ. He was so bored of them gimmicks that as he went home, and as he was at home, he shaved all his hair off and grew a goatee, started making all the different things, brought the Stone Cold Steve Austin gimmick into it. But his big major push, and we go back again, Jake the Snake Roberts, King of the Ring. When he said about Jake the Snake, Austin 316 just kicked your ass. And all that was the biggest one that moved that guy. And of course, he was on about him bashing his Bible and all the rest. And then he goes, John 3:16. Well, Austin 3:16 says, I just kicked your ass. And bang. And he just went. And that's the thing. You had a lot of wrestlers that wanted out the next generation. You had a lot of wrestlers that didn't want out that next generation. And Steven Regal, to me, I liked his later stuff. When I very first saw him. And they go, no, he's from Blackpool, England.
Mhm.
And then you hear him talking, and I'm like, he doesn't sound like he's from Blackpool. And then, of course, when you properly looked at him, yeah, he is from Blackpool. And he played the gimmick that he needed at the end of the day. And this is the thing with a lot of wrestling. It was gimmicks. And I think we've seen a lot of great superstars over the years, a lot of great legends still to this day. Stone Cold Steve Austin, of course, legend, The Rock. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame,
Yeah,
no doubt.
all
one
those
day.
guys are going to be talked about for years.
Yeah.
I mean,
Undertaker, legend.
Yeah.
Kane, legend.
And see,
HBK, Shawn Michaels, legend. With the work he did.
See, yeah. Kane's another one that I have a little piece of nostalgia. I mean, I'll have that with me the next time we do a Legends podcast. But
yep,
I've got a picture in the Halls, Tennessee post office with Kane.
Jeez, and of course now
he lived out there in my end of the county.
Yeah,
and he's Knox County mayor.
Yeah, Knox County mayor.
And yeah, you see him at post office all the time, man.
Yep.
So I got a picture of me and him at the post office. So,
jeez, that's cool. Can't wait to see that, Grump.
Yeah, I should have dug it up and brought and had it ready for tonight, but
yeah,
there's so much going through my head right now.
Brother, there's that
many.
Get
this started.
Yeah. There's that many different ones, and this is the thing. Of course, I know we've kind of been either and everywhere over the topics of what we talked about, different things, and
we have.
This is new to us, of course, doing a wrestling
we can
show.
Focus it. Yeah, we can focus it and pinpoint more if nothing else, we can
Yep.
take this thing to where you could highlight a legend.
Yeah.
You know, do a 30-minute segment on a specific legend, or you could do it if we were going to do an hour show. You could do,
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 15-minute segments on 2 or 3
Oh yeah.
different legends. So I mean, this is just it's a work in progress, people.
Oh yeah. And that's
We're
the
having
thing. And
fun.
of course, we're called Smoke Beyond the Mat because
Yeah.
we're sitting and having a cigar. We are Cigalian members, so and we are
Yep.
sponsored by the Cigalian podcast. So you can check us out on a Tuesday night when we go live with that show. And great guests that we have on that, and hopefully we might be able to get the odd wrestler now and again. For come on, it's what we hope and pray for.
You
If we
never
can get
know.
the cigar guests, you never know. We might be able to get the wrestling guests. But it is interesting because the amount of different legends, the amount of different territories, of course, the likes of Ric Flair, the likes, of course, the Iommi family, with, of course, Chief Pete Maivia, then for his family, where, of course, it's gone with Rocky Johnson getting into, then, of course, the likes of The Rock, Rikishi, Yokozuna, to now Roman Reigns, Jay and Jimmy Uso, and the different ones that are coming. Then we can go,
Yeah.
of course, about legitimate bad guys like Haku and the story of them ripping someone's eyeball out in a fight and stuff like that. It's just there's loads, and this is the
Oh yeah.
thing. Wrestling's been a big thing, and it's hit a lot of people from the early days of being like a circus thing, where you go to the circus, you'd see a wrestling show. Then, of course, to you see the odd wrestling match. Then you
Yeah.
look at where it is now, of course, in schools where they wrestle. Then going from there to NCAA. Then, of course, the Olympics, and seeing different people that go into that, and like Kurt Angle, Olympic gold medalist. Then he went into
Yeah.
wrestling, and the
Yep.
likes of that. And then, of course, look at different other people. When you look at Dan Severn from UFC, came into WWF. Ken Shamrock came into Brock Lesnar, left wrestling, went into UFC. So we're going
Yeah.
to be talking about that as well, and how things have changed there when you look at wrestlers going into a different kind of sport. Can they manage in that sport? And then seeing different people coming from mixed martial arts and coming into wrestling. Can they cope? Because we've seen it. And you've got to think. We've got, of course, the Hall of Famer ceremony coming up this year again. So, of course, we can talk about the different people that are in the Hall of Fame, should they be in it. Of course, one of the biggest ones, Grump, that you know I'm going to bring up, should Donald, excuse me, should Donald Trump be in the Hall of Fame, in the Wrestling Hall of Fame? Because he is. Kid Rock's in it. Should Kid Rock be in the Hall of Fame? Should
Well,
Snoop Dogg be in the Hall of Fame? Yeah.
no, I mean, I'm one of those. I'm one of those people that came from that generation where there was no such thing as a participation trophy.
Yeah.
You finished one. You finished first, second, third, or come back next year and try harder. These guys, I don't care. I like all of them. They're not wrestlers.
No,
They don't need to be in
no.
the Wrestling Hall of Fame.
They could be in the celebrity one if you did a celebrity Hall of Fame. But
They could all be in the
putting them in,
Celebrity Wrestling Hall of Fame. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. If you want
putting them
one of
in a
those.
wrestling one, putting in a wrestling one, I think it takes a lot of that off the wrestlers who've busted their arses,
Yeah. Yeah.
cut
That's
them,
a slam
cut
on them.
themselves in the ring for the pure entertainment of showing blood in some of the matches,
Yeah.
to them breaking every single kind of bone in the body. And that's a night there's to be showcasing that person, that wrestling person that's put everything, his heart and soul, he's probably ruined his marriage from it, down that road of drug addiction, alcohol addiction,
Yeah. Exactly.
then that's their night. And I think it takes a lot of limelight away. And don't get me wrong,
It does.
I think when you look at how it is, there's a lot of wrestlers in that Hall of Fame that shouldn't be in it. And I'm not taking anything away from Hulk Hogan. I'm not taking anything away from Hulk Hogan. When you look at the whole story of Hulk, he started, of course, in AEWA for Vern Gagne. He said he wasn't going to go to WWF. He went to WWF, and they want to break his legs. They want to kill Hulk Hogan for leaving. But then you look at his thing of going there to then WrestleMania starting, the MTV invasion, the Saturday Night Lives, and then Hulk Hogan becoming this mega popular superstar. And how he
Mhm.
changed the whole wrestling business because he changed the wrestling business with Vince. And that's when WWF really started taking traction. And you saw these different superstars. But I think what happened as well, and I don't know if you agree on this with me, Grump, but when you see the likes of Dusty Rhodes bleeding night after night, either in a steel cage match against Ric Flair, fighting somebody else, hanging with the likes of Magnum PA and fighting with him and doing that kind of stuff, to then going to WWF and you put him in a polka dotted fucking pair of pants and make him dance in the ring like an idiot. Do you
Yeah,
reckon that ruined his career? Do you reckon
didn't
that was
help it.
basically an up yours to him? Because I
Yeah,
think
it
a lot
didn't
of
help
these
it.
gimmicks were an up yours. Because you should have been with us from the first point. Now we've
Well,
taken you,
see,
now we're going to tarnish your career.
yeah, see, I could take that, and of course that I won't. But the whole humbling and embarrassing, thing, I could take that out of here and go down the conspiracy rabbit hole because that's what the controllers do to the puppets.
Yep.
No, notice your male stars and stuff like that are famous and all. How many of them you seen in women's clothes and stuff like that, playing
Well,
skits and everything else as a woman?
yep.
Just saying, and I'm not going.
No,
Like I said, this ain't the
it's
conspiracy
true.
theory show.
It's
So
true. You think
you know,
about any of them. You think about any of them wrestlers who came from the other territories, and what we saw of changing the name or changing the gimmick,
yep,
making them dance in the ring. Then it getting really cartoony of Duke the Dumpster Drosy using a bin as a bin man. You got another one called the Bogger Breast or whatever, and he'd eat a big massive piece of turkey and it'd be dangling all out of his mouth and picking
yeah,
his nose. Then the likes of Dunk the Clown, a clown for Christ's sake.
yeah.
Then they have a little, of course, dwarf. I can't say midget, but midget, dwarf, whatever you want to say, a small person
Short
basically.
person,
Yeah, a short person dressing them up.
vertically challenged.
Yeah, dressing them up in a, a suit that represents a bull and having them wrestle as a bull. The the gimmicks didn't work, and this is why we saw a lot of
Mm-mm.
change eventually. Why the Undertaker had to go from being that really slow kind of dead man to then becoming the American badass riding the motorbikes, putting his fist up and going
Yeah,
that route to then changing again. And I think if anything, that kept his career for so long with having that where he could see there needed to be a change and he could change. Hulk Hogan went from being Mr. Red and Yellow to then going to Mr. Black and White with the NWO, then going to Red and Black with the NWO Red and Black, to then changing it back to being Mr. Red and Yellow again. You
yeah.
could
Mr.
see
Burger
that
King
where,
again.
yeah, Mr. Burger King again, yeah.
Yeah,
And you could see that. I think a lot of superstars were ruined, and it's a shame to see where their career was to where they were. And of course, we've spoken about racism and wrestling.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go a little bit into that. We're not gonna go too much into it when we do the next couple of shows because it is a hard subject when you look at how we didn't have an African American champion for so many years, and then the first one being, of course, was when Rocky Johnson and of course Tony Atlas won the tag team titles. And then you look at the movement from that, and of
Yep.
course we had Ron Simmons win the WCW Heavyweight Championship, into how we are now, of course, with Booker T, Mark Henry, different people that have won the championship. I think we've got a great little show coming out, and we hope everyone enjoys it, of course. And we will be sticking to more topics, and we're going to be doing some topics, and we'll stick to them. And of course, you'll be able to grab this on the Cigar Lounge channel and on Rumble. Hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe to the channel because we're going to be doing more of this. And
Most
just
definitely.
sitting, hanging, smoking a cigar, and having a chat about wrestling and just shooting the breeze because what it's about having some fun talking about something that we love and it being either wrestling or about books or music. This, of course, is what me and Grumpy like wrestling, and of course with Matthew. And that show will be coming out where we'll do the recap. We'll probably be talking about TNA as well because TNA and WWE have just done a deal.
Yeah.
We'll probably go down the route of AEW as well and talk about them, but mainly it's going to be around the WWE side of wrestling, of course, with me and Matthew, where me and Grump is going to be more the legends, stuff like that, and the different things that have happened from the different promotions to the different wrestlers. So we'll pick out a wrestler, we'll talk about their matches, what we thought of their matches, how we've seen, of course, the development of wrestling from then to the moves that they're doing now. Are these moves going to kill their career compared to when you used to just see a wrestler body throw somebody and pin him? You used to see him do a clothesline and pin him. Now it's got to
Yeah.
be all these over dramatic wrestling moves. You used to see somebody take a DDT, they'd be down and it'd be 1, 2, 3. Now they take a DDT, they get up, they take another DDT, get up, and you're like, seriously, that move was an instant finisher. Now
Yeah.
you take about 20 DDTs and you're still getting up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing, but you know something? We will be back next week with another Legend show. And if you've enjoyed this, then why don't you get us in the comments and hit us in the comments and say to us, of course,
Yeah.
what
Definitely.
you'd like us see us talk about around the legends, which legends you like, and if we can find any more information on that legend that you don't know, of
Yeah.
course, by all means, we will bring it to you and we'll talk about it. And that's what you can do. But from myself, of course, Gaz at Rocky Cigar Reviewer, Grumpy, you got anything to say as we wrap up, my brother?
About the only thing I ever say when we wrap up, my friend. Um, I look forward to this adventure. Maybe they'll even let me sit in with them on some of theirs. I don't know.
If you're a good boy, Grump, we
Yeah,
might
I
let
know.
you in.
I'll just sit over in the corner and behave myself, right? I'm just happy to have a place to land, man. But anyway, I just want you guys to know that we love and appreciate every one of you. Like us, subscribe, share us, help us get out there and get this thing rolling. But we love every one of you and we appreciate every one of you.
Yeah,
But like I always say, if Jesus is not driving your bus, then kindly pull over to the side and exchange places with him and let him take the wheel. Because he drives
yeah,
better than we do.
and
And
that's
until
true.
you see me again, I love you.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
bro.
true. It's true with what you say, Grump. If Jesus isn't driving your bus, then pull
Hmm.
over and lay him to the wheel. And
Exactly.
of course, we've spoken tonight about, of course, addiction, and
Right?
we know, of course, it goes on in wrestling. We know, of course, addiction's around. And please go and get some help if you're really struggling in addiction. You can get out of it, and I'm approving help with that. I was alcoholic many years back. I got away from it. I know now what I can do with alcohol and what I couldn't do. And we've known people who've had drug addiction in my family. They've got the help. If you're struggling, go and reach out. Just look at some of the stories in wrestling, like we've said tonight. There's they seek the help and they are back. And just go and do it. And you know something, like Grumpy says, if Jesus isn't driving, pull over, let Jesus drive for you, because he can put you on the right path. And this is the thing, and there is
Amen.
help out there. And from me and Grump, we will catch you next week. Thank you for watching, of course, Smoke Beyond the Mat. And this was episode 1, of course, and we're talking about legends. We'll catch you next week, and we hope you enjoy. We'll see you soon.
Let's get ready to rumble. Smoke fills the air, the wrestlers roar. It's smoke beyond the mat, where legends go to war. From the ring to the mic, let the stories unfold of triumphs and tears, tales yet untold. Smoke beyond the mat, where legends are born, where the passion burns bright and the spirit is torn. From the heart of the ring to the soul of the show, smoke beyond the mat, where the wrestlers go. Take the stage with wit and charm. They guide us through the chaos, keeping us warm. From old school icons to rising stars, they share their journeys, leaving lasting